Hello, welcome to Poppin Predictions, where we believe movies aren't over at the end, but are meant to be continued. You're here with Andy and Marqueze, where we ponder what happens in a story once the credits begin to roll. Andy, what movie are we doing today?
On today's episode, we will be reviewing the movie Get Out. And I'm not telling you to leave, I'm just saying that the name of the movie is Get Out. This movie is a horror thriller that follows Chris, a young African-American male who goes with his white girlfriend to visit her parents for the weekend. During this visit, Chris becomes more and more uneasy, and the family's reception of him eventually reaches a boiling point. And as always, spoilers ahead. So, Marquise, why don't you kind of highlight the points that happened before the boiling point and get us going?
Yeah, so as Andy mentioned, this movie is a horror thriller film. So, be ready for the suspense and, the kind of scares here and there. But much more than, really trying to scare you, this movie is a social commentary for anyone who hasn't watched it yet. But I assume most of you have, because this was a pretty popular movie when it came out. But this movie really is a social commentary, just, on a particular experience, of, being a Black male going home to visit your white girlfriend's family. And I'm pretty sure Jordan Peele has a white wife, and so I could imagine that he's probably experienced this at some point in his life too.
Yeah.
And
for context, Jordan Peele is the director. If you don't really know,
he's the writer and director.
Yeah, he's the writer and director, producer, all that good stuff for this movie.
Yeah. So I could imagine that he's experienced this. I have experienced this at points. This could really be a horrifying scenario, so I'm not surprised that he decided to write a horror script off of one of these experiences.
Yeah, I know, right?
That does not surprise me at all.
Yeah, I know. We were just watching this movie and multiple times, hey, Andy, remind me to talk about this particular scene. I think he did that 4 or 5 times. I'm just oh my gosh, it's yeah.
Yeah, so as you can imagine, this movie is kind of filled with different encounters where Chris goes with his girlfriend Rose to visit her family, and her family treats him differently than they've treated any of her other boyfriends. And she mentions that directly to Chris, I think after the first night or whatever. And it's my dad is saying this. He's never said that to any of my boyfriends before.
He'd vote for Obama a third term if he could.
And that's one of the things I did tell you to remind me to mention is that I cannot tell you whether it was a girlfriend's family or whether it was just going to one of my white friends' family's house, hang out or whatever. It was there's almost no time where Obama isn't brought up. Some way, shape, or form, they're going to bring up Obama and how great he was, compared to Trump or compared to anybody. It doesn't really matter. Just talk about how great Obama
he's the best president of the dad's lifetime.
They will just they will go hard, and it's such a common experience. And so when I saw that scene, I was like, yep, that is so true. Or, they'll change how they'll talk. There's a scene where the dad is so how long has this thing been going on? And he does it with he does it with this, kind of accent or whatever. And Chris looks at him okay, kind of awkward, but it's so true. These are very legit experiences. And so in this movie, the experiences go from just a little awkward to incredibly awkward, to where okay, yes, something isn't right here, the family has 2 I don't want to, what do you call them, servants, house staff, whatever, and they're Black. Both the house staff are Black. One's name is Georgina, and then another's name, his name is
Walter.
His name is Walter. And these are the only 2 Black people, it's the family and then these 2 Black people. And so when Chris finally sees some other Black people and goes hey, how's it going? Just trying to talk to him. They act incredibly awkward. It's just more awkward than you could really imagine. And anytime Chris interacts with any Black person in this family, or any Black person in the family's neighborhood or family circle, these Black people act incredibly weird. And he ends up finding out that, these Black people are being hypnotized and that their bodies are being, bid on and, taken over by these wealthy white people, these wealthy white people who want Black bodies for whatever reason. There's a guy who ends up auctioning and winning Chris's body.
Yeah.
And what I really love, so there's a scene towards the end of the movie where and this guy's name is Jim Hudson. He's an art dealer, but he's blind. So it's ironic. They talk about it in the movie for a scene, but he's a blind art dealer. But there's a scene where Jim Hudson gets to talk to Chris right before the transformation's supposed to happen. And Jim Hudson says, or Chris asks why is this happening? And Jim says, some people just want to try something new. Some people want the, genetic advantages or whatever. But Jim says something specific. He's like, to me, to be honest, I could care less what color you are. It doesn't matter to me. He was like, I want you for your eyes. And in this, we should also mention in this movie, Chris is a photographer. He takes really beautiful pictures. And so Jim Hudson, as an art dealer, wants his eyes because that's would be more successful for him for a business or for whatever. And I really appreciated that, not in any sense that makes him any better or something like that, but I appreciate it in the sense of that's how capitalism acts. Is where it wants you and your product, and it can kind of really not care what race you are, what background you have, or whatever. It's you're simply just a product. So some people will treat you like crap, because of your specific race, and then some people will treat you like crap, or abuse you simply because it gets the job done or gets them to what their intended goal.
That's a much better take than how I took that scene. Because I also thought something deeper than that scene. Something that I thought of when that particular part happened was similar to how white liberals, or even not necessarily white liberals, just white people in general, are I don't see color. I see us as one race. To me, when he says it doesn't matter to me, if you're Black, white, whatever, I just want your eyes. To me, that's him ignoring his identities and just I just want to be you. I want to be part of your culture. I want your eyes and stuff like that. But I also can definitely see where you're coming from. I actually like your perspective more.
Oh, I mean, it's just the one I felt of when you see people talk. I mean, this isn't. I've heard this conversation forever, but it used to be a conversation where people would kind of always bring up how can you say there's still racism where it's you have these Black athletes and these superstars or whatever. And
it's who's in charge?
It's who's in charge? Who's running this?
You got Black athletes working for white owners.
Yeah, and these white owners are making buku money. Trust me, the athletes are not getting paid more than the owners are making. And so these owners are making, ridiculous amounts of money, and, they could kind of care less. They just want whatever's going to bring more profit. And so that was just kind of a cool scene. It's kind of a little sidetrack from the story, but that was just kind of a cool scene of what I really kind of enjoyed about the particular character is that for him, it's just abuse regardless of what color you are. It doesn't make you better. It just kind of shows what capitalism's like. It's we're going to abuse you regardless. It doesn't really matter. Whatever gets me to my end goal. But that being said, this family is kidnapping and hypnotizing Black people, and then through some neurosurgery able to pretty much have these older, wealthier white people hijack these Black bodies. And there's a character named, where's his name? Andre, who gets kidnapped in the very first scene of the movie and then appears at this dinner party with an elderly white lady. And Chris is like, man, I know
with a completely different name.
Completely different name and everything.
Logan.
His name's Logan. He's dressing different. He's talking different. Everything's just once again off about him. All the Black people, besides Chris in this area are all just kind of acting a little strange. And this is when Chris first realizes that something's wrong, something this guy's been hijacked or something has happened. And that's basically the plot of the story, where they try to kidnap Chris and hijack his body too. And things do not go well for them.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit later. But overall, I really enjoyed this movie. It was great when it came out. A horror film, based. That's a social commentary based on race. I was, super stoked for. I'm not gonna lie. I got kind of annoyed originally just because of how many of my friends' white families would constantly be saying, Marqueze, have you seen Get Out? Oh my gosh, Marqueze, have you seen Get Out? Oh, did you know it was about race? Like, I'm not joking you. I've literally had like somebody say
that
to me.
So tiring.
It got so tiring to at that point I didn't like this movie. I stopped liking it. But rewatching it with you, and the first time I rewatched it in a long time, I was like, oh yeah, no, this was actually a good movie. I forgot. I only disliked it because it just kind of getting brought up by, all these people that were kind of, yeah. I'm just going to leave it there.
Yeah.
But overall, great movie, good acting. I loved all the casting. Overall, I think everyone did a good job. And the plot was really original. Hadn't seen something like that. So, yeah, I thought it was good. How about you?
Yeah, so I really enjoyed this movie. I think that you do yourself like a disservice only watching this movie once. Like, that's something I really appreciate about this movie is that, like, you can watch it over and over again and pick up on different cues and different symbolisms and sort of hidden messages and Easter eggs that you might have missed on the first time go around. So, I mean, this movie is full of symbolism and Easter eggs, and I think that if you only watch it once, then you're not gonna get it. And so, like, one of the very first things, like one of my favorite examples is like fairly early on in the movie when they're on their way to Rose's parents' house, and they hit a deer. Which, side note, Jordan Peele made the sound effect for the dying deer. Oh, no!
Really?
No one's ear is dying. It's a deer.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. No, like if you go back to it, like Jordan Peele is the one that's like doing like the deer sounds.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. But then getting back to the story, like they call a police officer to just come and help out. And the police officer takes Rose's ID and then asks for Chris's. And you see Rose get very upset about that, but Chris, who's shaken up by the experience, by how similar it was to what happened to his mother, as you find out later on, but also probably used to either having like an experience with the police or having a talk and like knowing how to handle police experiences. Like, it's just like, I'm just gonna comply and give my driver's license. But Rose is like, no, like, he wasn't driving, like, you don't need his driver's license. And so if you only watch it once, you might be thinking, okay, cool, like, she's using her white privilege to stop the police officer from harassing her boyfriend. But in reality,
which is definitely happened. I mean, that's one thing that's happening.
Oh yeah, it's that's
on one level.
On one level, like, that is definitely happening. You're right, 100%. But like
even deeper
than that, like, what's really happening, and it is confirmed by Jordan Peele, is that like she's doing that because she doesn't want the cops to know potentially where Chris is or that he's seen him and stuff like that. Not to say that like I need to go through every YouTube video to understand what was happening in every movie I watched, but like when I come across a movie that like really intrigues me, like I want to learn more about it. And so I highly recommend going on to YouTube and watching Vanity Fair does a video with Jordan Peele where he goes through fan theories and he like goes through certain ones that fans have come up with, and like he confirms a couple ones, he kind of eggs on fans for a couple of them and just kind of like squashes out another one. One of my favorite fan theories that they talked about in the Vanity Fair video was that this was all like an imagination done by his friend Rodney, who's a TSA agent.
Rodney's hilarious. He's the comic relief.
Rodney is the comedic relief in the movie, and like the theory is that Rodney is against like Chris going and meeting his white meeting Chris's Chris meeting his white girlfriend's family, and he like is pretty adamant about that throughout the film. He's like, hey, like don't do it, don't go in their house, all that stuff. And so I guess we're getting to the end of the movie now, but we could come back. Is that like the ending of the movie is that Rodney comes and saves the day from like and helps Chris like actually escape. So the theory is that Rodney imagines an entire thing all to make himself feel like the hero, which Jordan Peele's just like, no, like that's not what happens. Jordan Peele's wild. Like, no, this is actually what happens. Yeah. That's pretty funny. But like some of the other theories that he confirmed was like the thing I talked about, the using of like cotton to help like, block out, like cover his eyes, like just like like a bunch of the theories that like you can make about this movie, like he does confirm.
Well, real quick talk like about that scene for those who haven't seen the movie. At the end, Chris is tied down in this like chair or whatever, just big like kind of fluffy chair, and they are having this TV play this trance, like this kind of hypnotist thing that puts Chris to sleep and just kind of knocks him out. And he like, I think it was ever since his like kind of cigarette addiction or whatever that like he just kind of scratches all the time, and like when he's stressed or whatever, he'll just kind of scratch the table or knock or whatever is near him. And so while he's in this chair, naturally he's just kind of like picking at the chair and notices cotton like coming out of it, and then gets the idea to put the cotton in his ear so when the TV plays he won't fall asleep and he can actually break free when someone tries to like, you know, take him or whatever. Which, yeah, when I read that one, I was like, wow, yeah, so he has to pick cotton for his freedom. Yeah. I was like, that is wild. Like that, like that's like really creative, like cool writing. Like that's something you would never have noticed if like you weren't super paying attention.
Yeah. Another thing that you might not have noticed if you weren't super paying attention. So Jordan Peele, like I mentioned, had some audio things in the movie. So the first one was the deer, but another thing that he did was they're watching TV, and they're like it's actually towards the very beginning of the movie. They're watching TV, and there's like an audio clip of like a mind is a terrible thing to waste, which he says, which is also like I think the slogan for what is it? The NCAA?
It might be United Negro Front. Hold on, let me figure out.
I think so. I think it's some sort of. It is. Yeah, it's one of the. Yeah, but he's the one that says a mind is a trouble thing to waste.
I was right. The United Negro College Fund.
Boom! There you go. There we go. Quick search, live search for our audience. But yeah, so it's pretty cool. Some of the things, and like there's so many Easter eggs in this movie, like that I just absolutely love. Like when you're in Chris's apartment, I don't even know if you caught this, but like in Chris's apartment. So like, as you said earlier, like he's a photographer, like that's some of the things that he likes. One of the pictures that's in his apartment is of a white kid having a black mask over his face.
Oh, I haven't noticed that. Yeah.
I know. This is what happens when you like watch YouTube videos for Easter eggs. But like, yeah, there's a picture of a white, and it's a big picture too. It's like of a white kid wearing a black mask, symbolizing that. Some other kind of, I'm not going to go through all of the symbols because again, there's a whole bunch. And if you really are interested, like you can definitely go and find a million videos. But like some of the other of my favorite ones that were in there were Walter has the grandfather's brain inside of him because of the fact that the grandfather lost a huge race to this guy, Jesse Owens. And so he always wanted to be as fast as an African-American man. And so like, that's kind of like the symbolism there is that he's constantly training to be better and stuff like that. Something that is pretty interesting that if you do watch the Vanity Fair, YouTube video, Jordan Peele wanted to put in a line. So at the end of the movie, when Chris is trying to escape, Walter comes and tackles Chris from behind. And so one of the lines that Jordan Peele wanted to put in the film was, I finally caught, like Walter was going to say, I finally caught up to you, Jesse. But he decided to cut that out because it didn't seem appropriate. Yeah. I think what I really, some other things I really like about this movie is that it just like takes a different approach to racism, because all too often it kind of takes the approach of like only white conservatives can be racist, or racism is a thing of the past and stuff like that. And whereas this movie kind of takes it as like, you know what, white liberals, you can be racist too, and it might not be the whole like it might not be the super overt things, but it is those subtlety things that you might not even realize are racist. Like when they finally get to the house, there's a bunch, they tell the parents that they ran over a deer, and the dad goes off a rant on how he hates the deer, they're taking over everything and stuff like that. And if you were to listen to that line without the word deer in it, it's very easy to imagine that there's a white person that has said something far worse than that. So this movie kind of takes an approach that like white liberals aren't as exempt from racism as they think they are. Like they aren't, like they can be doing these social justice movements, but if they aren't actually putting in the work, then are they any better than white conservatives who are doing very conscious racist things?
And that's definitely one thing. Another thing I might add is that this shows also a side, like usually when you see racism on television, it's on the side of we hate this group of people, and so we're going to talk bad about them or treat them bad or abuse them or whatever. And there's almost zero of that in this movie. Like the racism doesn't go through a hatred. And actually, a lot of it goes through like a jealousy in this sense of like jealousy because black is cool and it's in,
black is athletic.
Yeah,
I think something that really I was about to swear, what that really made me mad was when the brother, was it, I don't know if it was one of the family members asked Chris what sport does he play, and like
he asked the dad.
That made me so mad I have been
asked that more times than I could count.
Like I've literally seen that from like one of my white friends. Well, actually, I don't remember if it was a friend, but like I remember just in undergrad, I was in the dining hall, and like the dining hall was next to where the athletes lived on campus, and so there's a bunch of athletes living there. And one of the white people walked up to one of the black athletes and was like, "What sport do you play?" And it's just like, first off, you can't just assume. Like, I know that this person's an athlete because I loved like my alma mater's like athletics, and so like I go to baseball, I go to basketball, I went to football games, so like I know they're an athlete because I've been to their games. But you can't just like approach a random black person and ask them, what sport do you play? Like, you don't know them.
It's happening.
But like people do that. Like people do that, and it makes me so mad.
The amount of times people assumed that I played football for APU and that I was there on a sports scholarship, not a academic scholarship, is mind blowing. I'm telling you, I can't even count on both my hands the amount of times that people ask me, "Oh, you play football, or you play this, or like blah blah." It's like, no, I'm actually here on an academic scholarship, but whatever.
No, I'm actually smart.
Yeah, it was a very kind of like fun.
I know, it's shocking, but I think that's totally right. That it comes off of jealousy. I mean, you see that like a bunch of the older white people are asking Chris like various things that
super inappropriate questions,
like super inappropriate questions, like there's like a sexual question that one of them asked, like, is black actually better? Like one of them is talking about like, are they a golfer? Like, how are they at playing golf? Because they're assuming that he's athletic.
One literally says black is in fashion, black is cool again, or whatever.
Yeah, so it was just like kind of showing that like it's a bunch of microaggressions that are coming out, and people don't actually realize like what they're saying is racist. Because it's not the whole "I hate you because of this." It's like, I wish I could do this because you are this.
Yeah. It's like when they saw, like, once again, people assume racism is always in a negative spirit, which is not the case. And like when they saw Chris, the problem was that they hated him. The problem was all they saw was a black man. They didn't see Chris for anything else besides him being a black man. Except Jim. Jim's the only other person, but other than Jim Hudson, the art dealer. But other than that, all the other ones just purely saw him for his, physicality, and we're assuming all these things based off just him being black. And so that to me was an experience that wasn't talked about a lot previously before this movie, and that I thought was just really, really good, because that's what I experienced a lot going to a white private school for high school and a white private school for undergrad too, was especially going to visit my friends' families in high school and middle school, was so much of just being treated a certain way because I was black, not even in a negative way particularly, but just always certain assumptions and certain things being said and treated because I was black.
Yeah. Did you want to talk anything about Andre's experience at the beginning of the movie when he's walking through like the suburbs? Mm-hmm. I know that was one of the like moments where you're like, "Hey, Andy, remind me to talk about this." Oh my gosh,
I did, but I can't remember.
Oh my goodness, exactly. Marquise. Your input is amazing, and then you're like, I forgot.
I'm trying to remember if there was anything in particular that happened in that scene.
Well, I think it was because he was talking about how he felt out of place walking through the white suburbs.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there might have been a particular line where, if I don't remember the line, I'm not going to be able to call it. But I mean, just the awkwardness of walking through a white suburb and a car starts following you. And
yes, I think that's what it was.
Yeah, I think it was the car following them. And like I've had like weird stuff like that happen to me too. But actually, a scene I'd rather talk about more, because I don't want to just get into describing too many scenes since most of this is supposed to be on prediction. But this will be perfect to lead us off to the predictions. Okay, which is one of the final scenes in the movie where Chris has finally managed to kind of like escape. He's like,
yeah. Do you want to do like the rundown on like what like the ending like actually is?
Yeah. So as we said, they kidnapped Chris, hypnotized them, and as they're about to do this operation, as we mentioned, Chris plucked cotton out the chair in order to put in his ear in order to like escape. So it starts off with him just taking down this family one by one. Takes down the brother, takes down the dad, takes down the mom. Then brother comes back, takes down the brother. And as he's about to escape, his girlfriend Rose, starts coming after him. Long story short, right? At the very end, Rose is sitting there, or Rose gets Walter, her grandpa, who's in the black body, to chase down Chris, as you already mentioned, Andy. And he tackles Chris. Chris takes a picture.
Well, before that, Georgina steps out in the middle of the road, and he crashes into a tree because Georgina doesn't want him to escape.
That's why that's why he's not able to like really fully escape. But Chris takes a picture of Walter, and that kind of brings Walter back and up front, which on a side note is another cool little Easter egg. If you notice that it's the flash of a camera that is able to bring an awareness of what's going on. And that's kind of following the Black Lives Matter movement and all these videos we actually have now of Black people going through.
I didn't realize that.
Brutality and abuse. That's what's, quote unquote saving us, even though it's actually not, but that's a whole other topic.
That's awesome. But, I'm glad I love that. That's awesome.
So that's why the camera flash was able to actually bring them back out of the hypnotism. And so he takes this flash of Walter, and Walter recognizes what's going on, grabs the gun from Rose and shoots Rose, right? And then shoots himself because, that man's just been in someone else's body, like sunken in his own body for years. So I could imagine.
In the sunken place.
Yeah, life is just not great for him. So, he takes that way out. Bam. So we're at this last scene where both Rose is injured, has been shot. Chris is injured, but like he's like kind of okay, and so he gets up and he's about to kill Rose because she just did all this to kidnap him and take over his body. So he's about to kill Rose, right? And he actually lets go of her neck because he's choking her, but then he lets go of her neck, decides not to. And as soon as he does that, you see police lights pull up, right? And literally, like, the pit of my stomach and any other black person, I'm sure, just immediately it's like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, this is a black man standing over a white woman and who starts, crying out, help me. And I was just sitting there like, yeah, it's over. It's over. He's getting shot. Like that was my immediate reaction is it's done for. Like, if I was in that situation, I'd be like, it's over. Like, there's no way that I am even going to be able to explain myself before this cop takes out his gun and shoots me. It's like not even a question. And so you could, like, at least me, I very easily could see the hopelessness in his eyes as soon as the police pulls up, because he knows no matter what he says, it's over for him. But what hops out, it's not the police, but his friend Rod, who pulls up in a TSA card. That's why the lights are on, and like saves him. And so his feeling of relief when he sees Rod instead of a police officer, and that's such a true thing of what a lot of people don't understand is like that's why there's a lot of white people who have never really felt threatened by the police, and they've never been in scenarios where they've needed to, and so they kind of can't understand why you feel threatened when police are around. But as a black person, and just knowing, black people's history with police and how we're seen, it's like seeing a police pull up does not bring feelings of safety to me ever. It never has really once. Seeing police pull up do not bring feelings of safety. That brings feelings of worriness. And seeing that particular scene where like this whole thing just happened and a police officer pull up, like it just literally just felt like a pit in my stomach. Like, dang, it's over. Like, it's over for me. And so I thought it was kind of cool how like they brought that up, but also kind of had to finish nicely with it being Rod.
Yeah, it was a happier ending.
Yeah, it was a happier ending because I really thought that was about to go south real quick.
There is an alternate ending that goes exactly how you would expect it to go.
He mentioned that, right? Jordan Peele mentioned that in the interview?
He mentioned it, and then I was like, let me go see it. And so it does basically pick off right where like he's choking Rose out. And in the alternate ending, like it's confirmed, like it's pretty much confirmed that Rose dies. But then like Chris gets arrested. And Chris is in jail, and Rodney comes visits him in jail, and Rodney's trying to get the names out. It's unclear what names he's specifically referring to, but maybe to me he could be referring to the people back at the house that were like trying to auction him off and stuff like that. And Chris is like, I can't remember the names. And Rodney's trying to get him out of prison, and Chris is like, you know what, like, no, like I'm okay, I'm at peace, like they can't do it again. And so it ends there. So it was like a split between a happy ending and a more frustrating ending. But they went with the happy ending, which I think was the right move. But yeah.
Yeah, no, and like I'm not a person that likes happy endings. I like just the sad ones. That's just me, my personality. But I mean, I did like this ending just because it was just so perfect. It was like, okay, like that's cool. Like it was a cool little twist that I didn't expect to see. But
Jordan Peele makes up for it with his other movies where like they don't have necessarily the happiest or endings there, in his future films that he does.
Yeah, which we gotta do that on the podcast sometime too. We'll get to it eventually.
We'll get to Us and some other ones.
Yeah, but yeah, I do remember actually seeing that alternate ending where Chris actually does end up in jail over this, and all that, which is definitely immediately. I mean, honestly, I wouldn't even have assumed that he would get to jail. I thought he would have been shot on sight. Like that was my assumption. But yeah, so all that being said, Andy, how do you see this story continuing?
Oh boy. Okay. So I
putting the pressure on you first.
Oh my gosh. Dang. Oh gosh. I'm getting sweaty. No. So I thought a lot about this, and I don't think that there could be like a true Get Out sequel. I think that this would probably be like a director's cut or like extended or bonus scenes, or even like maybe like a short. But some things that I thought of that could potentially be what happens next is something that happens before Chris gets captured, but when Chris starts fully realizing that he is in a lot of trouble, is he finds a bunch of pictures of Rose with a bunch of her former black lovers. And so part of what a lot, like it's like it has Georgina, it has Walter, it has Andre, it has a bunch of other characters that like we haven't seen. And so part of what could be next is Chris explains to Rodney the entire experience. And the thing I really like about Rodney's character is that Rodney definitely like seems like the best friend in the world. I mean, Rodney's taking care of Chris's dog while Chris is away. So like Rodney seems like a really good friend of Chris. And so what I can see happening next is they go out and try to find these people that were captured and have a new personality in them and try to break them out of the trance. I don't know if they can fully go back to who they are because like the movie is about like they remove a segment of the brain to replace it with the white person's brain. So I don't know if they can ever go back, but they could go and at least release them from captivity, from slavery. If I'm being honest, like they're being used as vessels for these elderly white people so that they can continue living on. So like that's where I can see this going. Something that we haven't talked a whole lot about was the mom's role in this whole experience. So the mom is like a famous psychologist. She's able to a hypnotist, actually. I think she's a psychologist, but she uses like hypnosis as part of her practice.
Psychiatrist
and so she like that's how she is able to get inside Chris's head, is that she uses hypnosis to send him to a sunken place, using his mother's like death to help him. She gets him to quit smoking, which like on the surface you're like, wow, like good job, you got him to quit smoking, but it's actually because they want his body to be healthy.
There's so many side things. There's so many like, oh, it's so good.
So part of me also thinks, and this might be a complete rabbit hole, but part of me really thinks that maybe Chris is like, I want my revenge on these old white people who did this to me. And so he goes to school to become a psychiatrist
Let's go.
and gets full on revenge and does sends like racist white people to the sunken place, because that's the name of the zone that he got sent to, like the sunken place.
I like it.
I'm literally just like staring at Marquise like, do you like what?
I like it. I need that to happen. I need a revenge flick. I need the second one to be a revenge movie where he just goes ham on them.
Get Out 2 is a role reversal where there's still systemic racism, but instead of it being against black people, it's against white people, and so Chris is what it is.
Oh my gosh!
What about you? What do you think?
So bear with me, because this is going to be
okay.
Wild.
I am pumped for this. I love when you start them out like this.
For the audience could know, this is going to be kind of wild, but bear with me.
Wow.
I don't know, and I already explained this to you a little, Andy, but I'm about to take it even further.
Oh boy!
So I don't know how many people have seen the movie Human Centipede.
Oh no, Marquis, don't.
No, trust me, this is gonna make sense.
Okay.
I'm going somewhere with this. So,
okay, I believe in you.
I don't know how many people have seen the movie Human Centipede. Not saying you should watch it. This is not a recommendation, but
What are you talking about? It's a great. It's like, you know what? Watch Human Centipede with your significant other. It is a great romance film. You can learn a Valentine's Day flick. You know, you get to learn a lot about boundaries during that movie. No, Marquise, go ahead.
But yeah, so there's also a Human Centipede 2, and in Human Centipede 2, in this movie, what happens is it's actually made in a universe, in a world where they actually have the original Human Centipede. So the second movie starts off with a guy who's watching the first movie and gets the idea of, I want to recreate this. I want to recreate Human Centipede. And so he actually goes and hires the actor from the movie and then like kidnaps her and actually puts her in a real Human Centipede. But this one's even bigger and more expansive. Both these movies, especially the second movie is horrible. I'm not recommending any of these movies. But
the third one, though.
Oh my God, the third one, I didn't even finish. That was so bad. But so what I think for Get Out 2 that would be cool is if there's a person who has seen Get Out, right? And they're sitting there and they're like, wow, this would actually be really interesting if I could have the body of, LeBron James or John Jones or, whoever, right? They start thinking of stuff like this. And they're like, I wonder if it is. And I wonder if I could find a way to actually, do this kind of like this transferring, of the brain and all that stuff, and actually figures it out. Hires Daniel Kaluuya or whatever, the main actor.
Oh my goodness.
And actually does this real thing with him, kidnaps him and does this real thing with him. Or no, this is where it gets kind of wild.
Okay.
Considering that we recently had people waving the Confederate flag in the Capitol. So this isn't too far off. But let's say you have someone, Confederate, whatever, who gets the idea to wait a minute. The more I'm thinking of this.
Dun dun dun.
Wait, actually, the more I'm thinking
Marquise
of this,
is talking himself out of it.
But I should check it. So here's where I was gonna go. Where I was gonna go was that he starts hypnotizing a bunch of black people and actually turning them back into slaves and creating a new plantation. So creating a new South. One that with the return of slavery through this. But I just realized in this movie, they're taking white people and putting them in black bodies. I don't think white people want to be put in black bodies just to be slaves. I don't think that's going to work out. So it works with the hypnotism part, but
I think that's fair though. Like, I think that's no. Let's get back here because I think that
we might be able to salvage this
because I think that so like as you said earlier, like like everybody dies.
Yeah,
and I think that the surgery that the dad, like they mentioned that they've had surgeries in the past that weren't successful. So obviously that this procedure, I mean, it involves your brain. It involves taking someone's brain out and putting a new brain in. So obviously this procedure is very complicated. And so the dad might have been the only one to have been able to successfully do it. But I feel like what the mom does with hypnosis, like that's a fairly common, like, I'm not going to say fairly common, but like, I didn't mean to say fairly common rather, but like, it seems more likely that if I were to pick up one of the two skill sets, I'd probably be easier to be able to do that versus becoming a brain surgeon that's able to do that. So I think you might be able to do the hypnosis part, and not the brain part of it, so that you can still do what you were talking about.
It's still a taking over of black bodies. For whatever reason.
Playing off of your first prediction, I would absolutely love to see Chris learn I'm going to combine our two things.
Okay.
Chris is going to learn hypnosis, and I think that part of the issue was that like something that happened earlier on was that the brother was very upset with Chris for not using his body as like an athletic form. Like the brother was very much into MMA. Chris was into jujitsu. Like outside of that, like he didn't really do much things in terms of athletics. So I think Chris becomes a hypnotist, gets Tom Brady, and then like hypnotizes Tom Brady, and then he becomes the GOAT of football. Marqueze is dead. He's off the screen. He's not with us right now.
I was like, wait, what? Where did this just go?
Where is this going? No,
Brady becomes the GOAT of football. Oh,
no, he takes over Tom Brady's body, and then Chris becomes the GOAT through Tom Brady.
Wait, hold up. You might have something. Yeah, like what if Chris starts doing this and starts overtaking white bodies?
Yeah,
like starts just like having black people like, you know, not big, but like somehow does this thing where he starts giving black people these white bodies and bodies of very, you know, very, very wealthy, powerful black people. Bezos, Elon Musk,
or like very, yeah,
going like, you know, just starts going on, and then like, yeah, now see what happens.
This is how change actually happens. This is how we see police reform, criminal justice reform, like all the things that we need is actually because of Chris using this hypnosis skill to take over people of power and insert powerful black people's brains into them.
Yo, where are we going?
I feel like we're just trying to figure something out here. All this to say,
we're not Jordan Peele. We don't write as well.
Exactly. You know, some of our predictions are really good. Some of them are just for us.
But, you know, hey, Jordan, if you want some of this, just give us a call, Poppin predictions, you know, we'll sign some agreement. We can make something work. Just give us executive producer credits or something.
Oh, boy. Okay, getting back on track here. Wow, wild predictions this time. You never know what you're going to get. Marquise, would you after seeing it again and I guess like find like getting back to a place where you can like this movie again, would you recommend this movie to other people?
Yes, I would recommend this movie to other people. I think it's a good movie. I think it's a good movie in terms of just art, in terms of being creative. I don't see art like this too often, and so having horror based around race, especially in America, I think is very, very great. I like seeing things from different perspectives, and there's not too many stories you hear told from like the perspective of like the interracial couple, like, or really specifically, you know, the black boyfriend going to meet the white girlfriend's family. Like they're here and there, you know, there are movies about them, but like to take it and make it actually, like usually it's a comedy, to make it like a horror film, because like these, like there are funny things that happen. when
I feel like you usually see like if there were like a movie like this, they would be comedies instead of like horror thriller.
Yeah, you know, they're comedies. There's one with Brady Mack and Ashton Kutcher that is a role reversal. It's a white dude going to his black girlfriend's family, so it's funny.
R.I.P. Bernie Mac.
Called? Oh my god!
Oh my goodness! Yeah, I know the movie.
Guess who?
Okay,
yeah. Because
I've seen that movie before.
Yeah. The original is Guess Who's Coming to Dinner with
Gotcha.
That has the original is actually a black man going to visit his white family. So, but anywho, it's always comedy, and so I think to have it as a horror thriller film is like, oh, this is. Yes, like it is horrifying to like go over because you don't know what they expect. You don't know how they're going to treat you. You got to be ready for anything. And like, I mean, that's to any time anyone's going to visit their, you know, significant other's parents. But now add the fact that like you're black and they're all white, it just adds a whole nother layer to it. And you're going to have to deal with some weird stuff. It's happened. Yeah, it's a very true thing. So I think it's very creative in that aspect of just making unique art, but I think it's also really good in that it's a cool social commentary on, you know, once again, a different perspective of racism, not one that's specifically inspired through hatred, but one that's specifically inspired through seeing black bodies as products.
Yeah,
and that's what it has always been, seeing black bodies as products and things to be used. And so it doesn't necessarily come from hate, but it does come from that. And that is something that is seen on this side, whether it's through jealousy because they're cool, athletic, or whatever, you know. And so,
Yeah,
I would recommend this. What about you?
Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind I would definitely recommend this movie. I think that obviously Marquise covered a lot of the racial tensions, implications of this movie, and like why it's such a great film in terms of like the movie specifically. I think so I'm not going to go too much into that because I would basically be saying the same thing as him. But I think if you are a horror fan, like you will love this movie because it plays tributes to a lot of classic movies. I think The Shining is definitely one of the ones that first comes to mind. Like a prime example, like in the beginning of the movie when like the title first comes on the movie, like the letters are in like the same blue that The Shining is when you watch The Shining. There's a scene when Rodney's on the phone, and as you know, like as we've said, like he's a TSA agent, so he works at an airport. Like, and you can hear over the intercom like Flight 237, which is referring to the worst room in The Shining. So like, there's like a bunch of references. Oh, wow. Yeah. There's a bunch of like references, and then there's like a bunch of other movies that I just can't think of off the top of my head that like I know for sure like they're just referring to throughout the movie. So like even if you're like a horror fan, like you will like this movie. Mm-hmm. I think there are parts of the movie where like you kind of forget that Jordan Peele is directing this because like you don't really think of Jordan Peele as a director. At least I never thought of Jordan Peele as a director before this movie. Because it's so good. And I'm not saying that Jordan Peele like is not talented, but like I just
don't expect it. All you ever saw him was on Key and Peele skits, you know.
Exactly. Comedy. Or, Mad TV back in the day. But like you just don't see it coming. So he does really good. And then like there are like the comedic relief scenes is definitely where I'm like, okay, this is definitely Jordan Peele style. Like if you are a fan of Jordan Peele's sense of humor and Jordan Peele's comedy, specifically if you've watched Key and Peele, like I think you will absolutely love his comedic relief scenes. So yeah, I definitely recommend this movie. And if I'm moving into our rating system, I am going to do something I've only done once before on our podcast, and I'm going to give this a big bucket. And the reason that I give this a big bucket is because of the fact, like that it checks a bunch of it checks a bunch of boxes that I really appreciate. When I like watch like really good movies, like it's a fairly original plot. It is really well, like the acting is really good. The director, like Jordan Peele, does an amazing job. It has like really strong meanings, some overt, some subtle. And I think that something I really appreciate about Get Out is its rewatchability factor, because there are plenty of movies out there that like you can watch it once and like it's a great movie, but like you might not want to watch it again. Whereas like I said earlier, like if you only watch Get Out once or even twice, really, like you won't grasp everything that's in this movie that makes it so fantastic. So the fact that like you can watch Get Out like multiple times and pick up on so many different things is why I feel like I need to give this movie big bucket. What about you, Marquise?
I feel like the old me would have given this, not the old me, but like I just clarify
the 2017 Marquise.
I should clarify. Yeah, like when I already saw this movie, just because of how annoyed I was getting, I probably would have given this a large, maybe even a medium. But I actually agree with you, Andy. I'm going to go ahead and give this a big bucket too.
First time.
Yeah. So exactly, and the main reason why
insert sound effects. Come on, Jim, put in the sound effects for us.
The main reason why I give this a big bucket is because of its creativity factor. Like I've heard of this plot before, but only in comedy. Like I have yet to see this plot as a horror or thriller, and he made it work, and he did it while also doing social commentary. Like he didn't sell out of just doing something super abstract and creative, or just doing some type of social commentary, but even though it was good commentary, it wasn't good art. He did both,
Yes.
And that's real skill. He did both. And so, I appreciate that. And so I'm giving it a big bucket.
Boom. Oh my goodness. I'm glad I'm in your presence for you to finally give. I mean, granted, this is also like our podcast, like who else would be here? But I'm glad that I was finally here to get a big bucket out of you, because I know that you are super critical, which is great, of movies.
We have to have some certification. Like
exactly.
This movie is certified what? Like
this is Poppin predictions. This is Popper certified.
Yeah, this movie is certified Poppin. How about that?
Certified Poppin. It's pop of approval.
Yeah, it's just a pop of approval.
Shit, put in the sound effect.
We'll figure.
This is my new bit. You'll hear this in the next 20 episodes. That being said, get out of this podcast and listen to some of our other ones. Let us know what you think of our prediction here of Get Out. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you get some fresh pop takes of our favorite movies. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at PoppinPredict and on Instagram at PoppinPredictions.pod. So let us know your thoughts of the movie and how you think we should continue. Is there a different football player that you think that Chris should take over instead of Tom Brady? Do you think that we should do the Human Centipede? Question, answer, no, we're not going to do Human Centipede.
Low key though.
Low key though. We might want to do, no, joking. Marqueze.
We'll discuss it. We'll have a talk about it. We'll figure it out.
Marqueze, any final thoughts?
No, great movie. Highly recommend if you haven't seen it. You probably have, but even if you have seen it, go give it a rewatch.
Watch it again. Like I said,
think
super
about
rewatchable.
Think about what we said specifically in certain remarks, and then go back and rewatch it.
Cool. All right, Get Out. Have a great day. Keep popping, everyone. Peace, 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 everyone.